all-new Yamaha V6 Offshore F350. It's a featherweight knockout, the lightest 350 horsepower outboard on the water, exhilarating boating and incredible control in a powerfully light design. The Yamaha V6 Offshore F350.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's May 9th. These are your headlines. I'm just going to come right out and say it. Striped bass fishing is poised to blow wide open across southern New England. Also, seems like Tog just exploded this week. A lot of nice fish in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And you still can't sleep on those largemouth. A whole bunch of big hogs caught this week. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. The first one, with beach driving season almost upon us, we wanted to compare and contrast some of the best or some of the most popular portable compressors. Here's Tim C. Smith doing just that.
After a long day on the beach fishing, one of the hassles is reinflating your tires. Some areas have air hoses that you could actually reinflate right there at the beach, but sometimes also those could be long lines when everybody's getting off the beach and it could take a while. In the last bunch of years, there's been these inflators on the market, and there's a couple that we're going to check out here and see which one might work best on the beach. First, we got the Makita. The advantage to this, it's got long battery life. You could use these Makita batteries. If one's dead, you just pop another one on. It has an LED light when you're using it, but there are some drawbacks. When you set the PSI and you start it, it expects you to hold your finger down on the trigger. It will shut off when it hits the correct PSI, however. To fix that, I got to use a clamp. This one is also a little expensive. It's a little over $100, and that does not include the battery. This is the Air Motto. You've probably seen this all over the internet. It's self-contained. It's rechargeable with a USB-C port. You just screw this on, put in your PSI, and off you go. Now, I've used this on the road on long trips. If my air pressure's down a couple pounds, I've used this. And then I've got this from Harbor Freight. This is about 40 bucks. I forgot to mention this is about $80. This is about $40, and it has a little gauge on it. It's simple. It doesn't automatically shut off. You got to keep an eye on the gauge, and that's how you would inflate your tires. But this works off your cigarette lighter, so you really don't have to worry about recharging it or having enough battery power like this one. You just plug it into your cigarette lighter and off you go. Next, we're going to test the inflators and see which one might be right for you. First thing that we're going to do is deflate our tires to 15 pounds, and then I'm going to time each one of these inflators and see how long they take to get to 32 pounds of pressure. Okay, let's get started, and we're going to start with the Makita first. Now let's test the inflator from Harbor Freight. Now let's check out the mighty Air Motto. So the final results are in on our test. We have the Pittsburgh inflator from Harbor Freight, about 40 bucks. It inflated the tire from 15 PSI to 32 PSI in about 7 minutes. It worked well, just a little bit slower, and you got the cumbersome issue with the long cable that you got to plug into a cigarette lighter. But not a bad item for $40. You've got this for $80. It was slow. It took 18 minutes plus to inflate that tire from 15 to 32 PSI. The other thing about it, in daylight, it's very difficult to read the front of the panel. At night, it's fine. In daylight, you can't see it. This is a no-go for the beach because it was only able to inflate one tire. I tried to inflate another tire, and it died after 4 minutes, so no good. The winner is the Makita, the most expensive one, but it did the fastest job. It inflated that tire in about 5 minutes, and there was plenty of battery power to keep inflating tires. Now, I know Milwaukee makes an inflator also. I'm curious if anybody out there has used the Milwaukee. Let us know in the comments how well that's worked out for you. So this is Tim C. Smith for thefisherman.com.
Next up is Jenni Ackerman's latest installment of Open Boat. This one deals with kayak safety. Take it away, Jenni.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat, or should I say kayak. To promote the Coastal Kayak Clash, I'm going to give you a rundown on kayak safety. First off, your PFD. Never leave home without it, especially on the kayak or a smaller vessel. I got on here, I have my whistle in case I'm in distress, my handy dandy knife in case, God forbid, I flip the kayak and I get tangled on lines, I can cut myself out. I have my walkie-talkie to communicate to my kayak buddies. And on the kayak itself, I have a paddle just to get out of any situation. I have a ton of stuff. I have a whole crate of gear. And then of course on foggy days like this, you got a flag, and more importantly, you got a light. So if you're entering the Coastal Kayak Clash this year, remember kayak safety, kayak with your buddy, play it smart, use common sense, and win the 2024 Coastal Kayak Clash. Let's go!
It was a busy first week of the Coastal Kayak Clash. Larry Newman started the bidding with his 34.75-inch bluefish landed on May 1st. We had 2 nice blackfish from CKC regulars, Tom Howd with a 18.25-incher and Justin Oser with a 21.75-inch. Justin Oser also logged a 14.5-inch porgy. Greg Sakowitz entered the first fluke of the clash at 20 inches, and we have 2 stripers, a 27-incher caught by Greg Sakowitz and a 39-incher landed by Kenneth Zaloom. After 1 week, the top 3 looks like this. Kenneth Zaloom sits in 3rd place with 3 points, and the 2022 champ Justin Oser sits in a virtual tie with Greg Sakowitz with 6 points. To be part of the fun, you must be a Fisherman subscriber. Get all the details at thefisherman.com. Week 1 of the 2024 Dreamboat Challenge was a week of weakfish. We had 3 nice weekies hit the board. Bill Pesaurus had a 5.15 pounder. Mark Barocchi nailed a beautiful 7.1 pounder, and Anthony Savino landed the leader at 8.19 pounds. We also had a Titanic bluefish hit the board. This 15.5 pounder landed by Frank Shea should stay near the top all season long. The top of the leaderboard looks like this. Mark Barocchi sits in 3rd place with 9 points. Anthony Savino holds 2nd place with 10 points, and Frank Shea breaks the tie by landing the bigger fish and holds 1st place with 10 points. To be part of the Dreamboat Challenge, you must be a Fisherman subscriber. Get all the details at thefisherman.com.
And the last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing. Seeing a lot more photos coming in, of course, with the season firing up. I have to say I did not get to paint in that plug this week, so you're still just going to have to imagine what I might come up with creatively, or maybe you don't want to do that. But it's going to be a flat-legged needlefish. It's going to be given away on July 24th, so you've got lots of time to to take your best photos, send them in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com, or text them to the number on the screen. And again, just compose a nice photo of you holding your fish, and on July 24th, maybe you'll win.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Moving over to the reports now, I did not really hear much from Maine other than a little bit more largemouth action up there, which is firing on all cylinders. I'm going to go ahead and guess that striped bass have crossed over into Portland and maybe even a little bit north of there by now. And, only better things to follow after that. Crossing down over the border into Massachusetts, we'll start things off with James Jewkes.
Hope your fishing was great last week, because it's been on fire. Oh, I'll tell you. I'm just getting off the shad grounds, and the herring are so thick, I can't believe it. I did manage 1 shad this morning, and I did manage a striped bass on a shad spoon. So much fun. So with that said, stripers are in. They're all the way up to the Lawrence Dam. It's been a little sporadic, but the fish are out there. I had a few over the weekend. Did manage get out with the Plum Island Surfcasters Juniors event on Saturday too. And the juniors did fantastic. I think we had 9 carp, all good size. It was awesome time. If you ever want to try carp, I highly suggest it. Takes a little bit of work, but it is fun when you put a 15, 20 pound fish on the deck. Oh, anyways, everything else is good. Guys catching pike up here. Smallmouth, you name it, they're on it. The shad are in, everything. So striped bass are out front. Really not out front, but they're coming by. Make sure you guys get in the estuaries and start fishing. Just be careful. A guy I know went for a little dip in the mud in one of the estuaries. A little tough to get out of, especially if you're alone, but just be safe out there. And like I said, everything's been on fire. So, and the size of stripers that I've been getting are around 22 to 25 inches, which is good to see. Nothing of any size yet, which is positive for this time of the year. I'd like to see more of that to know that we still have some fish around. But please, please catch and release. Handle the fish properly. No dragging them in the sand. Lip them if they're small. Get the hooks out and get them back in the water. Crush the bobs. All kinds of stuff. Single inline hooks if you can. Get rid of the rear treble hook. Other than that, enjoy this fantastic fishing. Thanks, Dave.
You know, as is the case almost always in the beginning of May, we've got great fishing across many different species. I got some pics of a nice smallmouth that came out of the Merrimack River. We've seen lots of striped bass activity from Boston down to Plymouth. And some of those fish now are eclipsing the slot limit size. So, you know, things move quickly at this time of the year. You got to love that. Crossing over the canal, actually crossing over the canal, but also on the other side. So we're in the Canal region, we'll say. Freshwater fishing, still very good. Seen a lot of big largemouth again this week. Some 5, some 6 pounders. Trout fishing on fire throughout the entire region, which is, you know, par for the course at this time of the year. Striped bass fishing is in a mode of metamorphosis on the Cape right now. Fish seem to be spreading further and further every day. The best fishing is still in Buzzards Bay, but you know, it's funny, these last few years we've seen an early shot of fish moving up along the bay side of the Cape, and we may see that again this year. I have not heard that yet, but that's something you definitely want to keep an eye on. Guys are doing well on needlefish, glide baits, and plastic lip swimmers over the last few years. Some top water action during the day on spooks and pencils too, so keep an eye on that side of the Cape. Don't think that they're automatically going to go all the way around. Some of them come through and then just head to the right outside the canal. So that's something you can look for. Moving up toward the canal, there's definitely fish in the canal. And I think any day now, here we are right off the new moon, any day now that place could explode. For a little bit more on what's happening there, let's toss it over now to East End Eddie.
Hi Dave, got an east flood tide this morning on the canal. As I was leaving the house at 3 a.m., going through the center of my town, there's a bank that has an electronic board with a time and temperature on it. And I noticed from a distance as I was approaching, it was 52 degrees. And then as I got closer, right as I was passing the bank, it changed over to 53 degrees. So I took that as a sign trending in the right direction. So Tuesday night, late Tuesday night, was a new moon, which is ushering in the breaking tides this week, all week. And right after the new moon set, Mark the Preacher McNeil and 2 other guys did very well on the west end. They caught 50 striped bass between them. And Mark was good for 15 himself, including 6 keepers up to 31 inches. And he was using a white Gags paddle tail. And white has been the predominant color for any success I've heard so far this year. Bull McKinnon was using a white pencil when he caught his fish. And so anyway, so this week could be epic with the breaking tides. A guy in a boat told me that there are 30 pounders that are stacking up outside of Sippacan Harbor in Marion. So hopefully those fish are just thinking about coming into the canal pretty soon. They said there's quite a few nice big fish there. So my tip of the week is that Tim Hollywood Petrarca, a great canal rat and good guy, was speaking to the Falmouth Fishermen's Association the other night, and he recommended that people get the fish rolls for their phone. It's an app you can get through the store app, and it deals with all the different, the different species have different regulations. Some of them even change as the season goes on, like scup and tautog. So it's hard to keep track of all that stuff in your memory. And so Tim recommends that you get that. And I've had it for years, and I'm really happy with it. It's very convenient. It's nice. So until next week, catch a big one.
Heading out of the canal, there's just so much going on in Buzzards Bay. The tog fishing has been off the hook. A lot of nice fish. A lot of fish up into the low 20-inch class. The bite has been very good. Saw Justin Oser, one of our regulars in the kayak class, has been doing some damage out there on some tog. And that extends from the west end of the canal all the way up the shoreline. Go off of Mattapoisett, go off of Dartmouth. All those rocky areas there are holding a lot of tog right now. Also starting to see some scup moving in as well. The other thing is we've got striped bass all throughout that area. And we're starting to see some bigger fish staging as they kind of wait for their whatever signal they follow to go into the canal. So we've seen fish up to 30 pounds in the Mattapoisett to Wareham area. Some of those fish are going to head up into some of those estuaries. The others are going to take the turn and finally find their way into the canal. So definitely want to keep your eye on all of that. For the last thing in Massachusetts, we'll head inland now. We'll check in with Steve Reigles from Steve's UV Lees.
This past week, the fishing was pretty good, with many anglers getting into double digits, putting in a few hours every morning. Below the border in Connecticut, the shad bite has continued to stay strong. They are also been getting quite a few stripers on willow leaves down in the Cromwell area. An unusual amount of stripers on willow leaves in the Cromwell area. So I would like to congratulate Nick Zaccio for winning the adult division in the Windsor Shad Master Derby that was this past weekend, and also Kobe Davis won the junior division in that Shad Derby. Coming up the next weekend, and then the next 2 weekends actually, is going to be the Holyoke Shad Derby. It's free to enter. You just have to catch a fish, bring it in, get it weighed in, and you're entered to win. Striper fishing continues to be pretty good. Size-wise, there's some good fish being caught. I still think we have a little ways to go before the big girls get here. But get out there, get in that Shad Derby. Hopefully this rain that we're getting just keeps the river up and doesn't really blow it up. This is kind of the best situation for what happened this winter. If we just keep getting this little bit of rain, it's going to keep the run alive, and keep us in manageable temperatures, and it should stay good. So try to stay positive. You bring trash in, you bring trash out. We are our brother's keepers. If you see trash on the river, pick it up, bring it with you. It's not hurting anybody but you to leave it there. Other thing, South Hadley side of the Connecticut River, South Hadley side at the dam is off limits. EPs have been working that side pretty hard to educate people, to let you know that you're not supposed to be fishing over there above the bridge. So stay out of there, guys. They're working hard to keep it cleared out, and see you on the water.
Make 2024 your year to win. Compete in the Fisherman Magazine's Dream Boat Fishing Challenge. It's our subscriber-only season-long region-wide multi-species fishing competition to win a brand new Yamaha-powered Steigercraft 21 center console. Go to thefisherman.com to check out all the amazing prizes. Remember, this contest is for Fisherman Magazine subscribers only. Catch fish and enter to win. Sign up today.
Crossing over into Rhode Island, we'll start things off with an East Bay report from TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Steve. Hey guys, quick report for you from a little bit of southeastern Mass and East Bay, Rhode Island. I'm going to tell you there's no shortage of striped bass or tautog in the salt water this week. Bass from small diaper stripers up to 35 to 40 inch bass have moved in, and they are not only in Narragansett Bay, they're in Mount Hope Bay. They're up towards the Braga Bridge. They're up towards Common Fence Point. You can get them off of Prudence out in front of Cold State Park. And a little sleeper spot for you this week if you fish the mouth of the Warren River right off of Rumstick Point. I got a good report that some big bass were in there pretty much marauding some big pogies. So be on the lookout for that. There's also been some birds working in there. So if you find some birds, it's pretty easy to find the fish, and obviously if you're in a boat and you see them on your sounder, it'd be lights out for you. Soft plastics are working, top water's working, the dock has been working lately. Just, you know, pretty much there's a lot of fish out there, we know that, and there's just plenty of boats. There was plenty of boats out there this weekend on that fish. The togging on the pylons of the Mount Hope Bridge has been pretty good. There's a couple of good spots on Common Fence Point. If you're in a boat to anchor up on, or even if you're on shore, you can cast to over there that holds some really nice rocky structure. And there's been some good togging in there too. The Stone Bridge in Tiverton has been great. The old Brightman Street Bridge in Fall River is another good spot that's been really good for a tautog also. Haven't heard much about the fresh. Most of my contacts have been in the saltwater fishing. So haven't heard any reports of squid yet, because I know there's squid here, and I mean it's probably going to be any day now. I've been trying myself in the Barrington River. I had a couple of good outings in the Warren and Barrington River. Lots of fish chasing my paddletails. We just used paddletails, and we did pretty well. So for this week, get out there and fish. It's been really good, and hopefully it's going to continue, and we'll catch you next week.
Narragansett Bay is firing on all cylinders. It's full tilt out there. We've got 3 different regions that seem to be really firing up with striped bass. You've got way up in Providence. You've got the area from the Newport Bridge up to like the north end of Prudence, and then you've got another body of fish that seems to be pushing through like underneath the Mount Hope Bridge up into Mount Hope Bay. Bite's been great. A lot of these fish are 26 inches to about 16, 17 pounds. There are some bigger fish. I've seen fish up to 25, and I'll bet you anything there's some bigger fish, you know, up into the 30-pound class. Anyway, they're feeding primarily on like medium-sized bunkers, so like 5-inch class bunker, which is why those 5-inch paddle tails like the MLBNs have been crushing it, which is why the smaller flutter spoons have been crushing it, and guys are doing well on like the 7-inch dock. So definitely want to keep your eye on that. These fish are on the move. There's a lot of bait and there's a lot of fish, and we've heard of guys logging 100 fish days out there, which is crazy. If you want to do some togging, head out into any one of the thoroughfares that head into the bay. Could be the Sakonnet River, could be the East Passage or the West Passage. A lot of tog being caught in those areas, and from what I'm hearing, the bite has been insane. Like just really, really fast action on these rock piles in any one of these passages. Not so much insane on size. We're seeing lots of keeper-sized fish. In fact, the keeper ratios have been very amenable for most guys. Not a lot of really big fish have been caught this week, though. But if you're looking for keepers, you know, right now is the time to go for sure. They're biting everything. Most guys are fishing crabs now because we're starting to see a few more scup moving in as well. But the bite has been really, really good. Now let's check in with Jeff Sullivan. He's been kind of staying out of the salt. He's done a little bit. He's been doing a little togging, but he's been crushing it with big largemouth. Had a night that he'll never forget the other night. So here he is.
Hey Dave, what's up? So I got a short report for you guys this week. Giving you an update on what I've been doing and what's going on. Let's start out on the saltwater side of things. The striped bass bite is on. We splashed the boat the other day. And we got into a nice pile of fish. You know, we were getting them on NLBN 8-inch shads and the Ben Parker flutter spoons. I can honestly say that is the funnest bite ever. I love that bite, the shad spoon bite. You can't beat it. There's so much herring around, it's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen this many herring. But yeah, I mean, whether you're just finding herring schools and just dropping down that shad to the bottom and just wringing it off the bottom, or whether you're finding bunker schools as well, because the bunker is here too. I mean, that shad spoon bite's incredible. As far as that, it seems like fish are showing up by the tide. You know, and then from the surf, I'm getting fish in the back bays, which is awesome. You know, it's like you can kind of scale down your tackle a little bit and have some fun with them. You know, whether it be on mummy chubs, cinder worms, you know, what have you back there, the back bay candies, as I say. You know, it's a blast, man. There's some big fish in the back bays. So if I were you guys and you're not a boat person, or you don't have a boat, or access to a boat or a kayak or anything, stick to the back bays this time of year. There's some big fish back there. And it seems like they just keep funneling in as the hours go by and the tides go by. The tautog fishing. Oh man, the tautog fishing is awesome. The jig bite is like on fire right now. We're getting fish in 6 feet of water up to 8 pounds. I mean, you can't beat that, you know. 20-pound braid, 30-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a light jig, 3/4 ounce jig. We're having blasts. We are having a blast. But you don't need a boat or a kayak for that. For you guys out there that don't have one or don't have access to one, you can get them right from shore. That's why I like spring tog fishing. You can get them right from shore, no problem. You find a rock, you find a dock, you find any kind of structure, you can chum them in and get them in there, or a mussel bed. You know, there's a lot of mussel bed shoals up where we are, in the Mount Hope Bay area. I mean, you can get them right under your feet pretty much. So yeah, the tog fishing's been awesome. I can't wait. Every winter happens and I'm like, man, I want to tog fish this spring. Freshwater side of things, everything's been phenomenal, been great. Been getting a lot of big largemouth during the day, at night. Fish up to 8 pounds as well. I mean, this full moon that we had before was good. This new moon's incredible. These fish are chewing. They're still in pre-spawn phase. They're still fat and happy, and I'm happy. I'm just not, I'm not doing overnighters like I was last week, which is fine, which is better for me. But yeah, you know, everything's going on with, you know, the trout. The trout bite's been pretty good. Not as good, but it's been pretty good. I can't complain. And, hey, it's a good time to be a fisherman, Dave. That's all I can say. All right, guys, tight lines. See you next week.
The Coastal Kayak Clash is back for 2024. Win this Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 fully outfitted by yakattack.com. Our second place winner will take home this Humminbird Helix 7. Win third place and you walk away $500 richer. And there are many other ways to win as well. We've got reels from Daiwa and lures and gear from Yozori. If you fish from a kayak and you're a Fisherman subscriber, you're eligible to enter the CKC. Catch one of 8 qualifying species. Photograph them next to a flat ruler showing the Fisherman tag with your kayak clearly visible and get yourself on the leaderboard. This kayak-only tournament kicks off May 1st and ends November 30th. Get all the details at thefisherman.com.
Heading outside of the bay now, moving out along the Narragansett shoreline. You got striped bass along there. You got great togging along there. That's going to extend all the way around Point Judith, out to the center wall, and then along South County. Any one of those offshore rock piles is going to be good for togging. Bass have been good all along the beaches and outside the breachways. We're seeing a lot of smaller fish in that region, like 20 inches to 30 inches, let's say. But a few fish, decent numbers of fish, I should say, up to like 18 pounds, and then one really nice fish, 43-incher, that I heard about that came from one of the breachways. So a lot of striped bass activity along that whole stretch. You got scup moving in. I haven't heard of any bluefish yet, but that's going to happen any day now. And the other thing that's going on is we've got tons and tons of squid moving into the bay, around Newport, around Saconnet. And then offshore of all of South County, there's clouds of squid everywhere, which should fire up the fluke bite. We'll hear hopefully more about that next week. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Moving over to Connecticut now, we'll start things off with our herring expert. Here's Kevin Job.
Thanks, Dave. Yep, so as we discussed last week, alewife runs are really pretty much finished up here in eastern Connecticut, as well as much of central Connecticut. We're still getting some what I'm going to call estuarine spawning. So these fish they're not really running up the fishways anymore. They're coming in the evening, and it could be some fish that are dropping back from spawning upstream, but they're spawning right around the head of tide. And I've been getting a lot of reports from our observers that are out and about, especially guys who are striper fishing, just letting us know, there is some limited spawning that is occurring. And I've gone out a few nights to look, and there's some half-hearted spawning going on here and there. So the fish are still around. As you go into western Connecticut, though, we are still having some smaller runs that are going up fishways into the head pond. So, and that's kind of a thing that's always happened here in Connecticut. We get really early runs in eastern Connecticut, and as you move into central Connecticut and down west, those alewives tend to run further into May, whereas in the east they've really started to finish up by now. So a lot of stripers on them where guys are finding them. So definitely get out there. As far as the blueback herring are concerned, the numbers are, as I always say, pretty much abysmal. We're out sampling on the Connecticut River the last 2 weeks, working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and it's some of the lowest numbers we've ever seen. So our crews have been going out and looking, just doing visual surveys, and we actually haven't seen any fish yet. We got a report one day of Weathersfield Cove having some fish, so we ran up there like we used to. The numbers used to be so good up there, we could actually go up there and purse seine those fish for stocking in other locations, and we weren't able to locate any fish, and it's kind of been that way for much of the last decade, unfortunately. So those of you who have been lucky enough to find blueback herring runs, I know you found some nice fish too. So it may just be a few hundred fish that run up at a high tide in the middle of the night, and there's been some pretty nice stripers where those fish have been. So unfortunately, we're not looking at those runs of hundreds of thousands like we had in the 80s. So it's very limited, but those who are putting the time in and getting out there are finding some really nice bass on those fish. So probably is going to be a very similar report next week, unfortunately, as we're really starting to wind down here. Our May and June river herring runs just aren't what they used to be, unfortunately. Hopefully we're going to start moving in another direction. So until next week, thanks guys.
Now, the striped bass activity in the Eastern Sound, as we said last week, is always the slowest to sort of gel. But it's moving in the right direction. We've got a lot of fish moving up into the Thames now. Guys are doing some topwater damage there. And then up inside Narragansett Bay, we've got the same thing going on. And then you get out toward the Connecticut River and things start to get a little bit more exciting. There's fish around the mouth of the river. There's fish upriver. And for a little bit more on all the things going on there, let's start things off with Captain Mike Roy from Reelcast Charters.
Hey, what's up, everybody? For this week's fishing report, the spring striper run is in full swing. As expected, with the new moon, the stripers are arriving. They are covered in sea lice, which indicates that they are ocean migratory fish. They're really fat fish. They're stuffed with butterfish and bunker. They're eating well. So if you want to fish that spring run, I would recommend booking something for next week because the fishing should be really good over the next 2 weeks probably. Also, I expect to see the first weak fish and bluefish reports of the season. That's going to probably happen over the next few days. That's about all that we have for you right now. Oh, and also the porgy bite for people interested in porgies, that is kicking off their big fat porgies that are going into their spawning areas. So you have a lot of options, a lot of good fishing opportunities coming up. So get out there and catch them up.
Now let's check in with Rowan Lytle.
Hey everybody, after some very nice, warm, sunny days, it looks like we're transitioning into some colder, wetter weather this weekend, which is not the worst thing in the world. Herring runs kind of trickling back a little bit, not quite as strong, of course, and there's been a lot of problems with that in the last few years, and numbers have just been steadily declining, obviously a big problem. But should see some decent fishing this weekend, especially in regards to bass, pike, and pickerel. Pickerel and pike should be post-spawn now. Large and smallmouth have both been kind of getting on the beds already in a lot of the shallower backwaters of the river. So look for active beds. They may or may not be on them a lot of the time. When we get fluctuations in temperature like this, fish will kind of get on the beds and then pull back off of them. Use your discretion when you're targeting bedded fish. It's not always the best idea. If you're in a part of the river where there really aren't that many large fish and you find large fish on the beds, probably best to leave those alone and let them do their thing. Otherwise, they can be fair game. Certainly if you get into areas that there are just tons and tons of bass, especially where they're not super duper pressured, catching them isn't the worst thing, especially if they're just going to go right back to those beds. But if there's fewer fish, obviously they're trying to make the next generation, so it might be best to leave them be. But I kind of like this cooler, wetter weather this time of year. It can oftentimes produce some of the bigger fish, especially using big baits, big flies, and things like that. So get out there. Good luck. The weekend fishing should be pretty good despite the somewhat crummy weather.
Heading out of the mouth of the river, we'll check in quick with Matt Stone. A report on the water with Matt Stone from Black Hall Outfitters.
What's up everyone, Matt here from Black Hall Outfitters with this week's fishing report, coming to you from the water. It's so nice out, figured I would do it while I'm headed back to the ramp here. Lots of good stripers kind of flushing in waves here, some of them chasing herring, some of them holdovers becoming active, a couple trickles of fresh fish as well on the smaller side, of course. I found a lot of fish on flats today, 8 to 10 feet of water, getting them on an SP minnow, getting them on topwater early. Nothing crazy size-wise, most in the slot to just under, a couple just over slot, which was fun. And yeah, they really like the flats this time of year. Get that sun, warm up while the water is still pretty chilly. Not quite at 60 yet. I'm looking at 58 and change right now where I am. So that's what's going on the striper front. Going to be a lot of the same stuff for the next couple weeks as we get kind of waves of bigger fish, migratory fish coming in, lice covered fish, things like that. But it's still fun every week, kind of every time we have one of these warm spells, it gets better and better. So get out there, catch them up, have fun, and we'll see those big fish soon.
And as has been the case over the last few weeks, the further west you go, the better the striper fishing gets. A lot of bigger fish, especially way out west. I was talking to Max yesterday. They were trolling up some nice fish on mojos, fishing like 20 to high 20 pound range on mojos. He said he'd seen some fish up shallow too that he was getting on soft plastics and docks. So a lot of action out that way. Have not heard of any fluke in this region. The only people that are targeting porgies that I've heard about are hopping on a party boat and heading over to Peconic. So a little bit of time left before the porgy action really fires up in Connecticut. And for a little bit more on the rest of things going on out in the western part of the state, let's toss it over now to Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World, another local fishing report. Me and my wife Lauren got out today. We're trolling mojos right now. We had them really good on the outgoing, on flutter spoons, diamond jigs, places like 11B, 20 AC up, we're at double. To our west still remains really good off Capt, Rye, Mamaroneck. Guys are trolling wire down there too, braid with mojos, bunker spoons. This is the time to get out. This next month, leading into mid-June, should be the best fight we see. And I'm going to get back to it and let Lauren get on the fry right now because we're doubled up. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there. Striped bass fishing, like I said, is poised to explode. There are lots of fish in Buzzards Bay. There's tons of fish in Narragansett Bay. Lots of bait and lots of movement on this moon. So we're starting to see more bigger fish joining the contingent of fish that were already there. This is going to be the tipping point. I can feel it in my bones. So if you're a striper guy and you've been holding your breath, Time to let it out and get out there and do some fishing. If you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You get a full taste of what we offer. We cover all the fishing from Delaware up to Maine. Lots of travel stuff that reaches outside the region. All different angling disciplines, from flying inshore and surf, kayak, paddleboard, offshore, inshore. We've got tackle making, we've got rod building, we've got everything. With your $30 subscription, that's $29.95 for the year, you're going to get 12 paper magazines sent to your house. You're also going to get 26 digital editions sent to your email, and you're going to get access to all the back issues and our other editions. It's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. But if you looked on the website and you're still not interested, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing right there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.